Yo, what's up guys? Another Siege video. Having a few interesting defenses, few also interesting offense, especially the last few. You might want to check out those. Those are things that I can't use too often, but if you can use them, they're super funny. You should definitely build them if you have them, but we'll see those at the end. First of all, we're starting off with a very typical team that I always tend to use. Normally I use this with a Tris, the fire Tris, but in this case, if there is a water element, a CP is a lot stronger for it. Then another one of my very typical teams is just, once again, Robo, Nefties, and Nat5. It's still just very strong. There's just so much stuff going on, and I would say actually making, if you play against a team like this, where you would say, I guaranteed outspeed this anyways, might as well make the Robo Fio. I've been doing that the last few times, and it definitely works a lot better. And none of these units, even if they are swift, it's very unlikely that they would outspeed the Robo, and a Fire Robo or Despair Robo would just do a lot more. Next hit, pretty much similar thing, also using that Fire Robo for this one in this case. I've been asked a few times, how do you build this? Well, what you want to do is Fire or Despair Robo. You want to make the Tomoe also Despair. You want to make the Amber move right after the Tomoe. And then you have the turn rotation, as you see over here, where Tomoe has the most amount of debuffs on that skill 3, with a big pushback, with therefore also a big push on like just how many things you're spreading. And from there, you just can do a lot of damage. It definitely did help out that none of these units are wheeled. That's kind of the tricky thing about this team. If everything is wheeled and the Robo isn't the best like thing in stripping always, then it could kind of fail, but that's how you want to build it. Also keep in mind, you want to build them tanky. So the Amber is just full tank, so if things go wrong, it can actually tank out the Byuncho, and this thing is also just kind of tank related, because the damage comes from either the dots or Amber passive, so you don't have to build any damage on the Amber or anything. Then the next fight is one of those Vitras in a 5-star match. This is actually a defense we have been running for a bit as well. This is actually the first time we fought it, and I thought like, okay, I'm just gonna have the Seimei tank it all days. There's going to be a bunch of debuffs, easy healing, and from there we're just gonna try to provide that Bolfric skill 3. But I did already notice quite early on, like, okay, the Bolfric skill 3 is cool and all, but it is actually, normally we used to use this team with a Windy, but Windy is really shit right now. And the thing is right now, where if you would cleanse, the Seimei doesn't really heal as much. Plus the Seimei doesn't really provide any buffs for the Bolfric, so it's not stacking as much. Plus the Perna, whether it's stunned or not, it's still healing the Vitra, and it's actually healing a fucking insane amount. So I was already, when I was in this fight, like, aha, this is probably not the best of ideas. Like, normally with a pre-buffed or pre-nerfed Windy, I would absolutely use this with a Windy over here, but that's definitely where you see kind of like a comeback of the Perna itself as a defense unit, because there's just a few extra options out there which you can do. But as you can see, I'm kind of struggling getting enough damage in on that Vitra, just because that Perna is being pretty fast and healing a lot on that Vitra all the time, so it's not really working out. Luckily they were not on Destroy, because a team like this on Destroy is definitely quite a bit better. But yeah, as you can see, it's not really working out. Few procs in there, that definitely doesn't really help out either. Branding, that's definitely gonna hit hard. In this case, I was like, okay, I want to kind of keep the skills on, because that is a huge healing. But the Perna procced out as well, which is definitely quite a bit more damage. There is Nemesis on these units, but that's a proc, and that was also a proc, so therefore it died. GR8, so yeah, now I can just speed up the match. You do know, I got kind of close at killing the Vitra at some point, but this was not really the best of teams. Like, I think you can do a Bolfric team, but you kind of have to have something that also provides buffs on the 3rd slot. And yeah, the Seimei was okay-ish at tanking, but it was not crazy good enough. So if I did manage to kill the Vitra at some point, I think I would have still won this. But since I couldn't kill the Vitra, I couldn't get any good rotation in of killing it. That was just like, okay, I gotta heal at like bad moments or that kind of stuff. And maybe I should have started switching on the Amelia to get skills in earlier. But yeah, at some point it just didn't really work out that well. So that was kind of the bad part. You have to start healing at bad moments, and then you get a few dots, and from there it goes downhill. So definitely do think it is clearable with a team like this, but Seimei did not work out. So then hitting a few more Chandras. Chandra is definitely something you do see quite a lot on defense right now. but a lot of the Chandras are on crit damage 4, and because of the crit damage 4, it's not going to do as much protection. So, and if it goes for skill 3, it will most likely just boost up the Sonya pretty easily. Sonya is tanky enough to take at least 1 or 2 hits, so it's not that bad. And from there, it's just a relatively easy cleanup against the Scion. Should have used skill 2 over there for the Oblivion, but now I put Oblivion on me. But it's not the end of the world, because this Sonya, as I mentioned, can actually pack a punch or 2. It's not that bad. And then from here, it's just relatively easy cleanup. This team is still very strong. Only thing you have to keep in mind with this team is that you have to put as much attack on the Sonya with attack increasing artifacts that if they death trap you, it still works. Then the next team, one of those funny teams with double Valkyrie. In this case, I needed a light tank, and what is a better light tank than an Akroma? You just hope that the Byuncho or that the Byuncho kills the demon as fast as possible. I was like, I'm super low HP. Definitely I can kill that in 1 hit, but that Khalees was full on HP. That actually survived a pretty hard hit. Sure, it does have the HP lead from the panda, but I was like, okay, that's definitely not gonna survive that, but it did survive that. Luckily, I could kill it afterwards. And yeah, from here, it's just a relatively easy cleanup. You know how it works with like a Belial. The thing is, we can't really use Windies anymore in this team, and I used to always use Windies in this team. But since we simply, it's not really the best thing out there anymore, I try to find replacement. Sometimes it's a Sonya, or not a Sonya, sometimes it's a Seimei, sometimes it's this thing, sometimes it's a Clyde, sometimes it's a Tetra, sometimes it's like it could be a lot of things that's kind of help for the 2v3, and then just keeping this thing in, and then just trying to make it work. They did have a decent amount of destroy, but in the end it was still totally fine. Also, both of these Valkyries are just built full tank, and Belial's the only one that's actually on damage. Belial is also the one that's on destroy for me. I do recommend at least having something on destroy. I could put it on the Camilla, but I have the Camilla in this case on a Nemesis. So that is a kill over there, and that is a victory. So then fighting this team one more time, I did have 100 res on the, what's it called? Thing on the left. NFL. Yes, I was thinking about Amelia, but NFL. Instantly it gets armor broken. Thank you for 100 res. But yeah, that's all of these units were like, very low on crit rate, and the Chow definitely did want to win, same as that Perna. Perna instantly goes critter, instantly stunner, landed everything, so I guess there was 100 accuracy Vitra over there, otherwise there's no way you land that many skills. It was very squished though, so we did have that part going, but these units were kind of, yeah, it did work out in the end. Maybe because of the Chow procs a little bit. I did build them pretty fast and high damage, but these units definitely did want the victory over there. So was this the best of teams? Maybe not really, but it did work out, I guess. Then a very typical team that I always like to use, which is the Ian team. Ian definitely needs your absolute best damage set to make this work. My Ian is plus 147 speed to catch up on this speed buff. And the main thing that I do is try to find what is the most difficult thing to kill. And in this case, it would be the Byuncho, even though I do hate it with an attack buff. And then I go for damage on wind in this case. And with the damage on wind, you do actually tend to do like a pretty decent amount. And for some reason, people put a non-ruined Carcano in their defense. So that part made it a little bit easier. But then the fun hits. So the fun hits were, there were on the backline, there were Katarinas and Katarinas with Pontus. And normally, I'm not sure if you really are familiar with a Magnum, but the moment that Magnum gets a, or the enemy does any buffs, Magnum gets attack bar and attack buff. So in this case, didn't happen, but still armor break, no attack buff, 33k on that Camilla. Or not Camilla, Katarina. So yeah, in this case, it does get the buffs. It does also instantly go for the silence. It was like, okay, that could have been a slightly dangerous thing. But you can just skill 1, and skill 1 does actually go through all of the buffs, including the invisibility buff. So that's just one of those units. You're not going to see it too much, but if you do happen to see some Katarinas out there, this thing apparently 100 res, and the skill 2 doesn't go through. Only it, well, it does hit extra if you would strip it, so it's definitely still worth to do it. But yeah, a pretty fun hit. But the fun fact is, I found one of those defenses one more time, and I do have 2 of those units. So in this case, I needed a light tank and or I just wanted to go for I did need the fire tank. Easy kill on that karina. That was just like, that's one of those most satisfying kills. It's like, yep, instantly that, like, oh, you did your buff? Okay, cool, you're dead right now. So yeah, I just ruined up my Juno like I have my Juno normally for RTA. I do tend to do it for quite a few of those units that I don't use that much. I tend to just take my RTA runes and then just go from there. If it's like one of those weird-ass bruiser fights, just take my whole RTA set. It's pretty chill that way, and then work with it that way. Yeah, and then I just needed a tank, which was the Nigong in this place, very easy replaceable. Like we saw it on the previous match, but I didn't have a second Ana. So yeah, that is a 9 out of 10. Pretty interesting hits in the first place, I would say. Of course, a whole bunch of the hits that I normally always do, but definitely interesting to see more Vitras also on 4 or on 5-star defenses. Definitely do think it is a very strong unit, especially with the windy nerf right now. It does open up a lot of possibilities. So might your guild be thinking about what to use in 5-star? You could maybe be looking at some Vitras. Guys, thanks a lot for watching, and see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab, which has the dungeon guide archive and the video guide archive, which contains all of the guides that you need. Hope to see you there.